Thank you for joining us, everyone, today. We are joined by Geena Richards from Principia College, a runner on both the cross country and track and field teams. Geena, how are you doing today?
I'm doing really well. Thanks for asking.
First of all, as I mentioned, two-sport athlete, what is it like for you to go from fall season of cross country into the winter season and then spring season of track and field? I mean, you're at it the whole year round. How do you handle that?
Yeah, well, it's definitely nice to have the differentiation between the sports and, get a few weeks off in between. So usually by the time I get to the end of cross country season, I'm really excited to be running on the track again. And same with indoor. I'm already very excited to be outside on the outdoor track. So it definitely breaks it up. And there's something that each sport brings that is different from the others. So I have a good time with each of them.
Yeah, as you mentioned, each sport kind of offers its own thing.
Mhm.
Cross country this past fall, you led Principia at the championships, finished 11th overall, I think was your best finish. Qualified for regionals last year, I believe. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah.
Yep. So, can you just talk maybe a little bit about cross country first of all? What is your mentality for a cross country race?
Yeah, well, with such a long distance compared to track, 6K, going into the race, you don't want to start off too fast, but you also want to be strong and competitive. So I always like to think of my race in quarters. So the first two quarters kind of they go by on their own. They take care of themselves, and it's that last third, or yeah, that 3/4 of the way through where that's when I got to gear in and increase the effort, really make sure that I'm staying focused and maintaining my form so that when I get to the last part of the race, really I'm just focused on kicking and finishing strong. And so that mental preparation starts before the race. It starts in our workouts, in the hard workouts, with learning how to change gears and to really engage. So, yeah.
Cross country, you're starting practice and everything in August. The hot humidity of here in the Midwest. You're ending it in November, where it can be chilly, rainy. What is your ideal running weather outside?
Mm-hmm. Say about 50 degrees. I'm from the Northeast, so
Right.
I'm used to colder days. So those first few weeks of the season are a little bit rough for me. Um, so getting into the colder weather, probably especially in October when the leaves start to change too. Then campus is beautiful. It's great to go on runs, and it's a little bit cooler. And I think that cross country ends at the perfect temperature for running.
And you mentioned it there, the Elsa campus at Principia College is so beautiful. But man, if I was running those hills in Elsa, that would kill me.
They kill me too. Yeah.
Now moving on to take a look at track and field. There's multiple events that you've competed in. Most recently, you've run the mile, but then I believe last week was your first time ever running the 3,000. Was that correct?
Yeah, that was my first 3K.
Yeah. How did coach talk you into running the 3K, or was it something that you just wanted to challenge yourself on?
hmm Yeah, I mean, I've run the steeplechase starting last outdoor track season, but I wanted to work more on those longer distances going into the season. It's my senior season, so I wanted to try as many races as possible and compete. So the 3K was part of that goal, and going into it, I actually had tripped before the race and skinned my knees. So I was kind of already a little shaken up, but ready to go. And I kind of just focused on maybe keying into my training from cross country, not starting out too fast, and using that momentum to keep me going. And then it goes by really fast. I know it looks long, but the first mile was like a blink of an eye. So it was a really fun race to run.
Well, good. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Mhm.
You also compete in the 800 and the 1500. What is it like for you on a Saturday, a race day, a meet day, to prepare for multiple events? How do you handle preparing your body and your mind to race multiple times?
Mhm. It's all about taking things one step at a time. If I have the mile first, that's all I'm thinking about. I'm only going to think about the mile. And same with if I'm running 4x4 and the 800. I've done those 3 event days before. And it's really, gear into what you're doing And then when you have a rest, focus on resting, focus on restoring, and you're just doing things one thing at a time. Just like with a lot of things in life, if you have a busy day, you just take it one step at a time. So it's the same with running.
Great advice there. You mentioned it just a few minutes ago, and for those of the people who may not know, can you kind of explain steeplechase to them? It's probably the oddest looking event out there for some people, and they're
Mhm.
like, "Why are they doing that? Why are they jumping in a giant puddle?" Can you explain to people the steeplechase, and then what kind of strategy you have on the steeplechase?
Yeah, the steeplechase is an exciting race. It's 3K, so 3,000 meters, and it has 5 barriers, which are basically just hurdles around the track. So each time you go around, you're jumping 5 times. And then one of those barriers has a water pit after it. And the goal of that barrier is actually to step on the barrier and launch yourself over the water pit. So you don't want to land in the water as much as possible. And this is a hard race because it's combining that 3K endurance and the speed that you need to keep that up with jumping every 100 meters or so. And so I found when I first raced it, I was so exhausted after, but it's really exhilarating because, every lap is new, and you're really also having the mental fun of getting over those barriers, and you have to really stay on your mental game there with when you're jumping. If you have a bad jump, you just have to keep going because the next one's coming up. And so it's really keeping you on your toes.
Yeah, it really is an exciting event to watch, and
Mhm.
me personally, I love taking pictures of the student athletes coming over the hurdles and into the water and getting the splash. It's really a good shot. So,
Yeah.
couple more questions before we wrap it up. You mentioned this is your final year. What is your major at Principia College?
Yeah, I am a double major in sustainability and political science. I also have a minor in economics. So I'm studying how environmentalism intersects with our policy decisions.
Very nice.
Mhm.
And would you like to go into politics, to government, or what would you like to do with this?
Yeah, I've looked at working at NGOs in their policy divisions. I've also looked at aiming to work with the government and creating international policy for the environment. And after college, right now, I'm hoping to get a master's at some point, but I'm going to take a little break before doing that.
Nice. If there was one tip or suggestion for people how they can be sustainable on their daily life, do you have anything you might be able to help them out with?
Mhm. Yeah, I think if you everyone knows the reduce, reuse, recycle, recycling triangle, and I think we forget the reduce, reuse part of that a lot. Usually, we're just focused on recycling, and so a way to be more sustainable is just thinking about, okay, how can I reduce? How can I maybe reuse a bag, for example, or instead of when you go to the grocery store, bring your own bags. That way, you're reducing your consumption, and so thinking about that entire cycle and not just thinking about recycling or that kind of thing.
Great, great tip. Um, so being, your final year at Principia College, what is the one thing that you're going to take away from joining and attending Principia College?
Mm. I think at Prin, I have gained such an appreciation for the team with sports, and being on the team has been probably the most fulfilling part of my time here outside of academics. And that comes with a sense of camaraderie, sense of love for the sport, and then also just the skills gaining from that, learning to be a leader on the team as a senior, learning to support each other, and have a common sense of purpose is something that is so valuable that I had no idea I'd be coming out of college with. I thought I'd, know how to do math and all that, but I'm coming out with the skills to be on a team and to have a common goal. And with especially something like track and cross country that's an individual sport, I feel like that teaches runners even more how
Mhm.
to be on a team because you
Right.
really have to think about your role. So that's what I'm coming out with.
That's a great perspective. Well, Gina, you have this weekend off, but you're back at it next weekend up at Illinois College. So we wish you the best of luck. And thank you again for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you.